Springer Mountain, Georgia, the southern terminus of the Appalachian Trail, a footpath spanning more than 2,000 miles to Mount Katahdin in Maine. For us, it's the beginning of a 3-day trek. We'll follow the white blaze for more than 30 miles to Neel's Gap. Day 1. About 8 miles from Springer, we came across Hawk Mountain Shelter. It's one of the typical 3-walled shelters you'll find along the AT. We took a quick rest and got back on the trail. We hiked about 2.5 miles to Horse Gap before we decided to stop. There's no water source here, so we had to fill up just after Hawk Mountain Shelter. We pitched our tents and set up camp. Including the 1-mile hike from the car to Springer Mountain summit, we walked 11.5 miles. They were fairly easy miles, but tomorrow would be a different story.
Day 2, day 10 in the morning. I'll probably run about another 10 miles today. Starting should be fun. We get to go straight uphill.
After a day and a half of hiking, we finally got a good view. It was nice to look out and see the mountains sprawling off into the distance before turning back into the woods. about 10.5 miles on the day, we made it to Woody Gap. Here, the trail crosses a road that winds through the Georgia mountains. There's a campground we could have stopped at, but we decided to move on. When we came up out of the gap, there was a great view waiting. We would walk about 4 more miles before camping at Lance Creek. It stormed all night, and getting moving in the morning wasn't easy.
Day 3, 7:50 a.m. We're hiking out today. Got about 7 miles to get out.
The rain started again not long after we got back on the trail. We took a break and had a bite to eat before starting the ascent of Blood Mountain. It's a tough climb, and the rain didn't make it any easier. Finally, we made it to the top of Blood Mountain. The bad weather kept us from seeing some spectacular views, but just getting to the top was satisfying. Blood Mountain Shelter is a nice one. It's got 4 walls, unlike most shelters on the trail, and it seemed as big as a small house. Now all that was left was the climb down. We put the backpacks on one last time and started the descent. A few miles down, the Blood Mountain Wilderness ends at Neel's Gap. The trees opened up, and we ran right into the road as some traffic rolled past mountain crossings. It's bittersweet as we approach the historic Wallace. It was a long, tiring walk through the woods, but the trail begs you to press on. A sign stands alongside the trail here, telling passers-by the history in the mountains they have just traversed. In Cherokee mythology, the mountain was one of the homes of the Nunyehi, or Immortals, the people who live anywhere, a race of spirit people who live in great townhouses in the highlands of the old Cherokee country. One of these mythical townhouses stood near Lake Tralita. As a friendly people, they often brought lost hunters and wanderers to their townhouses for rest and care before guiding them back to their homes. Before the coming of the white settlers, the Creeks and Cherokees fought a disastrous and bloody battle in Slaughter Gap, between Slaughter and Blood Mountains. Mountain Crossings is the end of our hike, but for many, it's just the first stop along the way.